On Get Up, and again, if you're just joining us, it was not a good night for Joel Embiid and the Sixers north of the border. Blown out by the Raptors, now down 3-2. Embiid just not well. 13 points, 8 turnovers. After the game, this is what his head coach had to say.
I think it's grossly unfair, some of the criticism that he gets. I don't understand that. And so it's not ideal. It's you wished he were at shoot-around. You wished he were in film sessions, but he's had a temperature for the last few days that's kept him in bed. And so, you know, take whatever you want out of that answer and end it with, it's not ideal. I wished he was at practice, and I wished he was in some film sessions, but he's sick.
And so that is where they find themselves, and this is where we find the one, the only Charles Barkley from TNT and the Hall of Fame and everything else. Charles, it's always our pleasure, so thank you. Well, let's start there. I'm just going to give you the floor. Jalen talked a lot about Joel Embiid this morning. What do you make of him at this moment in time?
Well, I think it's got to be very concerning, not just now, but going forward with the Sixers. The guy's missed more games he's played in. He's a terrific, terrific talent. But the best ability is availability. But let me say this about the Sixers. He says he's hurt. I'm never going to question a person who said he's hurt. But those other guys on the Sixers, they're sticking up a joint. Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, J.J. Redick, they're sticking up the joint. They got to take some responsibility if Joel is not going to be healthy. I mean, everybody's going to come down on Joel, and that's fair. You got to stay healthy, especially in the playoffs. But those other guys from the Sixers, I think, they're getting a hall pass, especially Ben Simmons. He got to play better, man. I mean, he got to play a lot better.
I agree with you, Charles, and this situation may cost Brett Brown his job. I talked earlier about the fact that if you're going to have Joel Embiid be your anchor, and in particular, he needs to perform down low, the fact that Ben Simmons won't shoot the basketball outside of the paint and he can't make free throws, I think long term, they can't necessarily coexist and maximize both of their individual talent, which means ultimately trading Ben Simmons. What do you think about that?
Well, Jalen, first of all, I heard you say that this morning, but are you going to put all your eggs in a Joel Embiid basket? That's going to be the big decision. Because Ben, even though he can't shoot, he can get better. He's just going to have to work on his game. The Sixers got to force him to get in the gym during the summer, shoot 1,000 jump shots a day, 1,000 free throws a day. Because, listen, he's a special talent. But like I say, this thing is going to be a fluid situation because of the health of Joel Embiid. He's a fabulous talent. He's a great kid. But if you can't stay healthy, we can't build an NBA team around you, plain and simple.
Now, I know you guys at TNT, I heard you talking during the break here. You guys are going to travel with the Eastern Conference Finals. And so on one side, we're a win away for Toronto from getting there. And tonight, Milwaukee could play their way there. If the Celtics,
Hey, Mike, let me stop you.
Yeah.
We already made our reservations for Milwaukee and Toronto.
Okay. Fair enough. And so, do you believe tonight is the last time we will see Kyrie Irving in a Boston Celtics uniform?
Yes, I think it will be. I think that it's not a good mix there. I think he's not happy there. Also, I don't think, and listen, I want to give Paul Pierce some credit because he said it first. I don't want people thinking I'm cheating on Paul Pierce's paper. I don't think Kyrie Irving can be the best player on your team. He's a very talented player, but from a mental standpoint of being a leader of your franchise that has to live with all the criticism, I don't think he can be the best player on your team. Because Jalen knows this. When you're a star and you're the number one guy, you get all the credit, and that's great. But when things go bad, you get all the blame. And I don't think Kyrie, he's a nice kid and a hell of a player. But from a mental makeup, especially they say he's going to New York. Listen, if he can't handle playing in Boston, he got no chance of playing in New York because that's a totally different animal.
And for me, Kyrie's thing, Charles, is a lot about style. He seems to be a guy that wants to be ball dominant and take a large volume of shots, which means they have to build a team around the guy that wants to be ball dominant, kind of like Houston did with James Harden for Kyrie's next situation. So going forward, do you feel like his best opportunity to maximize his talent is somewhere like New York, where they don't currently have a star player, or go somewhere like the Clippers or Nets that outplay expectations this year?
Well, I think he needs to go and play with a guy. He had his best years obviously with LeBron, because LeBron is mentally tough enough to be the number one guy and deal with the criticism. I think this is going to be the most interesting summer in NBA history. I do. I can't wait to see it transpire, because you got all these teams that got all this money who think they're going to get a superstar. There's not enough superstars to go around. There's only two players in the NBA who are going to make you an instant contender. That's Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard. There are a lot of other good players out there. But unless you get KD or Kawhi Leonard, you're just going to get some good players and be stuck in mediocrity.
We've got Charles Barkley with us here. So let's talk about KD for a minute and his team. Rockets-Warriors tonight, in some ways, might be the most important game in the NBA to this point this year. What have you seen so far in this series, and what do you expect to happen?
Well, two terrific teams. I think it's everything that we expected it was going to be. I think the lack of depth is really hurting the Warriors. I thought Steve Kerr made a mistake when he put Iguodala in the starting lineup, because he's the only guy who's going to be consistent off their bench. So they're really just playing with three players and Andre Iguodala right now, and I think it's coming back to bite them, because the Rockets, they got better depth, and it's just so much pressure on Clay and Steph, because the Rockets are wearing them down. Because, listen, James Harden is the best one-on-one player of this generation. He's a handful. And to ask those guys to guard James Harden and come out and get 30, I think it's been a lot on the Warriors.
Well, the Rockets are beating them at their own game. They're knocking down more threes than the Golden State Warriors. And so do you feel like they have an opportunity to actually win this series?
Well, Jalen, I tell you what, I think whoever wins the game tonight, to foreshadow, I think whoever wins the game tonight is going to win the series. I can't wait for that game tonight. Listen, these are two great teams. I hope that the NBA, I saw you guys talking earlier, Jalen, you did some great stuff in the preseason. Everybody talk about the Rockets in the world. They should be paying attention to the Joker up in Denver. That kid is phenomenal. You said some great things about those guys all year. I know everybody's concerned about the Rockets and the Warriors, but don't sleep on Joker. He's unbelievable. But to get back to my point, whoever wins that game tonight between the Rockets and the Warriors, I think going to win that series.
So you love the Joker, and Jalen, again, has been on this for a year. But last time we had you on here, and I know you said it on TNT, you have Portland coming out of the West. They're down 3-2. Now, have you changed your mind on that? Do you still like Portland to win there?
Well, I think they really squandered the series in Game 4 when they were up 2-1. Listen, I'm not going to make excuses. The big fella getting hurt for Portland really hurt him. But they had this series. They were up 2-1 with Game 4 at home. Same thing, you go back to Philly, Toronto. When Philly was up 2-1, you cannot lose Game 4 at home. So I still like Portland. But listen, I would not be upset, because Mike Malone and those Denver Nuggets have had a fantastic season. And I'm never going to get tired of watching the Joker play basketball. He is special.
Big win last night for them. We have their highlights coming up in just a few minutes. Charles Barkley, we always appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Have a great day. See you soon.
Thanks for having me, guys. Keep up the great work.
The great Charles Barkley with us here on Get Up. Again, as I mentioned, we will cover Denver-Portland coming up with highlights and analysis in just a minute. And back to some football. You know who had a very good NFL draft night? Tom Brady. We'll explain why he and his team should be